Hello and welcome back to the LFC transfer room for another live stream. And today we're going to be rounding up all the latest Liverpool news this week and as well looking at the Liverpool v Spurs game that is on Sunday. Today, I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen. We've got a first timer, but I'll introduce one of our regulars, as you know, JK. Jay, how you doing?
All good, mate. Nice to come off the back of a couple of wins on the bounce. I forgot what that felt like. So, yeah, positive, mate. Looking forward to Sunday now as well to play Tottenham.
Yeah, I know, definitely. I mean, Colin, it was a big game the other day. West Ham, we managed to get 3 points just about. But how are you feeling today?
Fantastic. Happy to be here. Away wins, even harder to come by, especially in those ugly jerseys.
I know, definitely. We had a little bit of an LFC transfer room meetup. Me, Kev, Drew's in the UK, and Neil as well. All met up at the West Ham game, so it was a great time. And we like to say we brought the luck, but. Yeah. To everybody joining, Jen, SV, thank you so much for being in. Make sure you do leave a like on the video. It helps us out a ton. And also make sure you are subscribed to the channel because that's what really helps us. But what we are going to talk about first is a bit of a surprising news story that come out involving Liverpool, Manchester City and Kalvin Phillips. John Cross, I think it is, of the Mirror of the Daily Star, someone from the Daily Star, reported that Liverpool were interested in Kalvin Phillips. It was then promptly shot down by a few people, not everybody, but a couple of people. So, maybe possible. I mean, they were saying 30 to 40 million. Liverpool do have a homegrown issue heading into next summer. They also have a midfield issue heading into next summer. However, it does seem unlikely that they just signed him, a year ago for 50 million. He hasn't lit the world on fire. It's not, I don't think it's crazy to consider it, but do you think Klopp would do it?
I think it'd be a horrible signing, to be honest, lad. We've had enough crop players over the years, Keita, Ox. Obviously, Matip stayed fit last season, but he gets injured a lot. The last thing we need is another midfielder who's been out for a full season. He's not a bad player, but to be honest, he reminds me a lot of Henderson. And I don't think we need another player like that. So, I, for one, myself, mate, I was happy when the rumours got quashed. I wouldn't personally go near him myself.
I mean, Colin, there's got to be a reason why he hasn't, been successful at Man City. You do look at their midfield; they've got 3-4 starting midfielders ahead of him. At the time, it did seem like a strange career path for him. But you've got to question it, if Man City are willing to get rid of him after a year and taking a 20 mil loss on him, if the rumours are true.
Yeah, and I think the wording of it was pretty funny too, which is like that we're interested. It's like, yeah, they're pretty much interested in, like you said, any homegrown midfielder. There's some level of interest in absolutely every one of them. I don't think would be the worst possible thing, but it certainly is not anywhere near the top of my interest. I could go without it. I'd be pretty happy to pass.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, speaking of homegrown players there, Jay, Kalvin, mainly midfielders. I mean, who do you think Liverpool should be looking to sign? James Milner's probably on the way out. Oxlade-Chamberlain's on the way out. There's a possibility that Joe Gomez could leave in the summer as well. Nat Phillips is also expected to leave. So there's 4 homegrown players. The 3 definitely, 4 maybe. Apart from Mason Mount, really, there's not a lot of class midfielders, and Jude Bellingham, the obvious one, but we know that's not happening. So is Kalvin Phillips really, he's the best of a bad bunch, isn't he?
He is, mate, yeah, but that you've hit the nail on the head. It's a bad bunch. You can't just sign someone for a lot of money just because of his English quota, and there is other positions that we need to strengthen as well. So it might be worth looking at English lads at right back or centre half or even the number 2 goalkeeper rather than the names we're linked with, mate, it's not necessarily that the players aren't good, but they're not worth what the English tax is. I don't dislike Mason Mount. I think he's a good player, but he's got 1 year left on his deal and they've won 50, 70 million. That's insane. That's ridiculous. He's probably maybe a 50 million player if he has a 5-year deal left, or 3 years, something like that. But with 1 year left, mate, that's insane. Conor Gallagher barely started this season. Played a couple of games here and there. Doesn't start games for us. What you've got to remember, mate, is Chelsea are 10 points off the bottom and Conor Gallagher doesn't start in that team. Why on earth would we be signing him to start on our team when we're open to go back to where we've been over the last 5 years next season? So it's one of them, mate. If we have to sign an English player, I wouldn't be looking at the midfield for it. Not from any of the targets that we've been strongly linked with anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Jen, thank you so much for the super sticker. Really appreciate it. As we always say, it goes right back into the channel. So thank you so much. And if you want to be a member like Jen, there's if you go into the description, you can sign up there. I mean, Jen said here, Colin, Gravenberch, McAllister, Barella. Yeah. I think that's the dream with Jude Bellingham maybe sprinkled in as well. But out of, recent targets, that seems like the best outcome possible. However, as I said before, homegrown is an issue. It's going to be a massive, massive issue. And, the links, we've talked about the links with Kalvin Phillips. I think one, if not two, of the midfielders we are bringing in have to be homegrown. What are your thoughts? We've talked about, the bad bunch, Conor Gallagher, Kalvin Phillips. What about Declan Rice? And, West Ham look like they are staying up now, but he's probably definitely leaving this summer. Arsenal are going to be in. Chelsea are going to be in. He was one of West Ham's better players yesterday. I mean, I don't know if you saw the other day. I don't know if you saw his recent goals. He's been running through midfield. I mean, surely if there's a homegrown issue, you don't go for Kalvin Phillips. You go for Declan Rice, right?
That would be more sensible, I think. I did see his goal just run. Was that Conference League? He's just running through about as many people as you could imagine. He'd be more of a preference than Kalvin Phillips. I just, to Jay's point with the English tax on those players, I think their price is hugely inflated. I don't know what it's going to cost to get him out of West Ham, but it certainly seems like if Mount's being quoted, like you said, upwards of 70, I can't imagine, with 1 year left, I can't imagine that Declan Rice would be anything too far less than that. I think he's been quoted as well as saying he wants, he would like to stay in and around London. It makes sense for him to go to Arsenal. I'd have a hard time seeing us completing that, but I wouldn't hate it. He thought he was quite good the other day against us.
Yeah, I mean, as Jen said here, we've got Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, so we're gonna win everything next year. But on to our next story. But before that, if you are new, make sure you do leave a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. So another midfield target who Liverpool have started to strongly get linked to is I don't know if I'm saying the first name right, but OG Nice's Kephren Thuram. Absolutely balling in League One this season. Caught the eyes of a lot of people. I think he's been called up to the French national team as well. Saw pictures of him and Canate, but Lequip, as well as Neil Jones, have said that Liverpool are keen on him. He's one of the players on the list. How many players are on this list? We don't know. Probably 50. But it looks like Nice don't want to sell, but as we know, every club will sell, and that price tag is 60 million. Jay, I'm not sure if you know too much about him. I know you do watch a fair few games abroad, but what are your thoughts on Thuram? He does seem like he seems like one for the future, but somebody who can improve our midfield as well.
He's a club midfielder in terms of an engine. He's a very good player. And Jen said before about Gravenberch, McAllister and Barella. We do need a defensive mid, and out of them three, none of them can really do that role that we need to be able to cover Trent, taking the new position he's took up. So Thuram's more suited for what we need at the minute. We need like either a Caicedo or Thuram. A Rice, like you said, I'd love Rice. The only reason I never mentioned him is the price. Yeah, I mean, if we're saying we can't afford certain players, we won't be able to afford Declan Rice. But I think the price tag with Thuram being 60, I think Ugart's release clause is 53. So I'm
he's
definitely not
just
against
signed a new.
Thuram.
I think Ugart's just signed a new deal today. Actually,
Oh, you're joking?
I swear to God, I think he has.
All right, then maybe not Ugart. No, Thuram's a good player, but I also like Kone, at Gladbach. Not too dissimilar players, to be fair. So I think I read a couple of months ago you could get Kone for 30 million. So if that's true, I don't know how true that is. It's half the price of Thuram. So I'd maybe look at him as well. But both them players are on the right track in terms of energy in midfield that we need and being able to help Trent when he's moving out of right back to midfield to give him that cover that we need.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, as we said there, it's 60 million euros, so roughly 50 million pounds. The issue why we aren't signing Jude is because we want to put money into free midfielders. That seems like a smart addition to the squad. He's 22 years old. He's at the moment not had any major injury issues with his career. He can play DM as well as a bit more forward. He's French. We always love a French player. He's Canate's mate, which do everything to keep Canate happy. But looking on the surface of it, it seems like a sensible deal, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think that's the range that we need to be shopping in. I think it needs to be, if they're initially quoting 60, you probably could get them down to 40. I think sub 50 is where we need to be looking at guys to buy. If the squad needs the sort of investment that we all know it does, we're going to need 5 or 6, I think, to come in. I think there's going to be a lot of people going out, and not necessarily to buy that many, but free transfers coming in. I think that that all makes sense as well. But I think Thuram, like you said, he's a big guy. I think I was looking at 6'4", huge legs, can run for days. I'll have him.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, he's capped for France. You mentioned Kone there. You look at the French midfielders that they've got coming through, and it's an absolute joke. You could pick out their under 21s and their main midfield, and probably every single one would start for our midfield at the moment. You've mentioned he's a DM. Would you be willing? I know Fabinho's been a little bit better. Sell Fabinho, bring Thuram in, and then maybe go for a couple of massive names in midfield, instead of, let's go and spend 75 mil each on another 2 flashy midfielders. Or would you, prefer to keep Fabinho and then bring in, maybe 2 or 3 cheap prospects?
I think the only way I sell Fabinho, and I appreciate he's had a poor season by his standards, but I think he's looked a lot better the last few games. It's worth remembering he's arguably the top 3-6 in the world last season, not now. Rodri, Fabinho, and the other one you could argue amongst the few. The only way if I sold Fabinho would be if we got either Declan Rice or Bellingham, and then someone like Thuram. I wouldn't sell Fabinho, get a Thuram, and that's it. Because we have got Bezetic now as well. He'll be playing a lot more next season again. Obviously, Trent's moving into midfield slightly, but he is still a right back. So if I was going to sell Fabinho, it'd have to be for a big name, like a Rice. I know he's had a poor season, but you could say that about Van Dijk. You could say it about any of them, really, bar Alisson, Bezetic, and arguably Salah. So no, if I was going to sell Fabinho, it would be purely if I can get a big player like a Rice or a Bellingham or someone like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't entertain it myself.
I mean,
or Casado even.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, what are your thoughts on that? Because you do look at Liverpool's midfield at the moment. It isn't the numbers aren't weak. It's just that there's too many weak players in there. You know, we've got Jordan Henderson who shouldn't be starting. Fabinho's had a rough season. You know, Milner and Ox and Keita are all probably going to leave. So you need probably 2 players to cover their game time. But you look at the other, you know, as I said, there you got Pacheta, Elliott, Curtis Jones. You know, these are all players who have been starting. Do we not think, you know, at least maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to have to be unloaded to bring in the 3 midfielders that we're hoping for?
I don't know how many of them will have to be. I think there's got to be. I would think that there's probably one out of that group that is going to go. Although, you know, if we're going to be playing more of like a 3-2-5 with sort of a box midfield, you know, that essentially is, instead of needing 3 pure midfielders, we might need really, you know, Trent, move him into the group of midfielders that and move him into that number. I think we still probably need, you know, Curtis, Elliott. Yeah, I probably 3 still to make up for, you know, 4 midfield places, assuming that I don't think Thiago is going to go anywhere. I think that probably will run out his contract, whether or not we'd like that. And I think Jay's spot on with, you know, I don't think that Fabinho goes unless you're really going to get one of the marquee guys. Unless you're getting the top of the wish list, I don't think he's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, he is probably our most sellable asset in midfield. I think if we had to sell one, it would be Fabinho. You know, he's not getting any younger. He's been quite poor the past, you know, year and a half. So, you know, you look at it and it is one that I think if we had, as you said, Jay, you know, if we're getting Jude Bellingham, I mean, I'd sell him tomorrow. So it's it'll be interesting to see. But we're going to go through a few comments, guys. So if you have any questions, you know, we'll just go through a few before we get into the Liverpool versus Tottenham preview. Kempachi here has said thoughts on Roma's 15 mil bid for Matip. Not sure if that's, you know, true or not. I'll take your word for it. But Joel Matip leaving, you know, we had a good game against West Ham. I thought he was, you know, as much as the issues did come down his side, it was more due to the fact that Jordan Henderson was letting players run through him like, you know, a knife through butter. But I was quite impressed with him with Roma. But if it's 15 million a year left on his contract, it's hard to say no to that, isn't it?
It's one of them, mate. It's a tricky one. I thought he was very good against West Ham, to be fair, but you can sell him for 15 mil last year if it's the only he's old, but can you bring the same level of quality in for 15 million? I doubt it. I can't think of anyone you're going to get for 15 million who's got the same quality as Matip. So you've got to be careful with transfers like that. I know he's in the last year, next year, and he is getting on. He's not getting any younger. But you seen yesterday, well, not yesterday, when we played West Ham, he can put a shift in still. And again, if you sell him for 15 million, we're meant to be on a limited budget, which is why we're not getting Bellingham, Rice, Casado, the players that we really want. If you're going to sell Matip for 15 million, who's replacing him for 15 million? That'd be my question to anyone who wanted rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, do you agree with that? I mean, there has been reports that Liverpool are looking to sell him. You know, if that is true, then you'd think they'd snap Roma's hand off for that.
Yeah, that seems like one that probably there would have to be something already in place for a replacement for him for them to go ahead and take that. Evan Ndicka from Frankfurt is a name that has been bouncing around. He's on a free, I believe. If that's if you're selling 15 and you're getting a guy in for free, that's probably the only way I would see something like that happening. To Jay's point, you're going to be hard pressed to find any sort of quality for 15 unless your scouting department's really spot on, and I don't know that ours has been, especially around that price range in the past.
Yeah,
I don't know, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from there. Michael, thank you so much for the donation of $5. We really appreciate it. He said Liverpool need 4 midfielders, 2 centre backs because Konate is injury prone and VVD is done. I don't know about that, and should not be a starter anymore. I mean, Jay, what are your thoughts on that? I do see his point on Konate being, injury prone. That is an issue currently. Hopefully it's fixed soon. The players have been injury prone and then come back and just, had good careers. Be very helpful. But his point on buying a centre-back, we've just touched on it a little bit, but I do think a centre-back is we need one this summer, don't we?
100%, lads, yeah, because like he's already alluded to, Konate does get injured quite a bit. And they're always little random knocks as well, that sometimes are only for 1 or 2 games. But when you're trying to have a bit of stability, you can't really have that all the time. And Matip, let's not forget, he gets his injuries, so does Gomez. So we definitely need at least one centre-back, I agree with him. I wouldn't say Van Dijk's done. He's had a poor season by his standards, 100%. I think he's a bit casual on the ball sometimes, or cocky, if you will, which he'll need to snap out of next season. But yeah, we could definitely do the centre half, but I don't agree with Van Dijk's finish. Like,
I mean, Colin, the VVD is done part, maybe a bit premature. He's definitely been well below his standard. Like, the drop off has been, very noticeable, and I think we should probably start looking at a long term, left centre back solution for him. There was reports earlier the season of Gvardiol coming in potentially. So I feel like Liverpool are open to the fact that time is coming to maybe replace Van Dijk, but it's not now, is it?
It's not, no. I mean, if we had fake money and we could just get in anybody we want, just let's spend 500 million. Like, that's fine. If that was the case, then yeah, I think we'd be like, yeah, just move them on. But not all clubs play with fake money. I don't really know what else to say there. Like, we have real budget constraints where other clubs clearly do not, and other clubs clearly do not have to play by the rules. So you can't just get rid of everybody. I think you've got to see value in, him hopefully having a better season next year. I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find too many people that you'd say have had the best season of their lives this year. You can't just, it's not FIFA. You can't just get rid of them because I just don't like him anymore. Let's just spend 85 on someone else,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what was it 2 seasons ago? He should have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
This is one of the best centre backs the world's ever seen. So I could completely agree and see where you're coming from. But yeah, so thank you for that question, guys. We are now going to move on to Liverpool versus Spurs, a absolutely massive game, Jay. They did us a favour yesterday, drawing 2-2 against Manchester United. Looks like Newcastle are probably going to, mop up that 3rd place. They don't really look like dropping points. So it's probably going to be, it's looking now, the 4th place is going to be between 4 teams, us, Brighton. To be fair, you could probably put more in there, like Aston Villa.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's, Spurs and Man United. Still all to play for. Yes, United have a game in hand, but we probably have the easier running. So, big game tomorrow. Spurs have been rubbish.
Yeah.
What do you think we just need to do more of the same? Trent in that midfield role. Canate's back now, so a bit more pace covering him. I mean, what are your just initial thoughts going into this game?
It's a bit tricky with the Kanate one because obviously when he's fit, you'll always play him, but you can't really drop someone when they're in form. And Matip had a really good game against West Ham, so it's one of them. To be honest, it's a big game for us because we have to win. We've got to win it, which makes me think you probably throw Kanate back in because you can't take the risk of it. He'll deal with Kane all day, strength-wise, in the air. It's a must-win game, but every game left in the season's a must-win game. And I fancy us with it being at Anfield. I'm happy it's at Anfield, put it that way, because they've been shite, Tottenham. But when you get a new manager, you get that new manager buzz where everyone runs an extra couple of yards for them. They put in a little bit more effort and stuff like that. So I think it's a more difficult game than it would have been a week ago or 2 weeks ago. But at Anfield, you've got to fancy us, to be honest. And I wouldn't really change anything in the side. The only thing I'd maybe change is Kanate and Matip. That's it. And Henderson, but he never seems to do that. So that's the only change I'd do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that centre back. That's probably the main talking point. As actually, there's probably a lot of talking points. We'll go over them all. But the centre backs, you look at Spurs' danger areas up front. They'll probably play Danjuma or Richarlison on the right, their right or left, which not a massive issue. But you look at that left-hand side, they're going to have Kane floating out there, Human Son with the pace. As much as I love Matip, I just think with Trent playing that new inverted fullback, the possibility of Jordan Henderson starting, you need somebody with his pace to really cover Son, especially, don't you?
Yeah, you definitely do. I think that matchup that's probably the key matchup for the game. I mean, it was that down that right-hand side of ours was the key matchup against West Ham. They certainly targeted us down there, and to think that Tottenham would be, I think, foolish as well. Yeah, I don't see any reason that we don't come out with a win in this game. Jay said it. We're at home. I think that should be any extra bounce that we might need. That should be it. And everything is a must win. It's everything's a must win, and we still might only get fifth.
I know it's a crazy season,
but I think they know what needs done. I think Tottenham are short on confidence. I mean, that United's not any good, and they crumble under any pressure, and they give up two goals in the second half and blow their lead. Like I think we probably put them to bed early, and ride the rest of it out.
Definitely. I mean, looking towards the midfield as well and the attack, Jay. Klopp brought Henderson off after 55 minutes. I mean, if Klopp saw what we all saw, he saw the worst player on the pitch. However, we know Klopp has Jordan Henderson tinted glasses and probably thought, this guy's playing amazing, let's save him for Spurs. Hopefully he's not. Hopefully, there's a midfield three there of probably Fabinho, Thiago, and Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones is undroppable at the moment. He's probably been our best midfielder the past 3 games. So do you agree with that midfield heading into tomorrow, or would you go a different way? I think Naby Keita's fit now as well, if that means anything.
I forgot about him, lad. Talk to me about him. Yeah, that is what I'd do. It's weird mentioning, by the way, I love Thiago, but the last 2 times he's come on, he's been dreadful. Against Forest, now it was one of the worst cameos I've ever seen. When he come on v Forest, he was dreadful. He weren't great against West Ham either, to be honest. But
I do think it's worth mentioning, he was playing in that weird 10 role on the right, where he does usually play, on the left where Jones was playing. I was saying that I think that hampers his game, but sorry, continue.
No, it's all right. I love Thiago, I do. I think he's majestic. There's no one like him. But I think he struggled the last 2 games he come on. But yeah, I personally would drop Henderson and put Thiago in. But with it being against Tottenham, I don't think there's any way Klopp's ever going to drop Henderson for this game, to be honest. He always picks Henderson for the big games, and this is a big game, really. It's classed as one of the top 6 that people say. So I don't think there's any way he drops him. Yeah, so I imagine it'll be the same side, only Kanate will come in, but I would like to see the midfield that you said, Jones, Thiago and Fabinho. I think Fabinho was a lot better last game.
Yeah, I think he's been, a lot better recently. But
Yeah.
Colin Helio has said here, this is a quote from Klopp, Diogo Jota got a knock on his back on Wednesday, but should be all right for Sunday. Looked typical Diogo Jota performance against West Ham, looked rubbish. This time he didn't pop up with a goal like he has in his past couple of games. But looking at the game, Gakpo looked great against West Ham. He's probably undroppable. Yeah. Luis Diaz looked very good when he come on. And the other two, Salah didn't really do much all game. Nunes was a bit meh when he came on. So, you've got 4 players there. If Jota's got a knock-up, you assume he doesn't start. But heading into the game, what's your front 3?
Yeah, I think Gakpo and Salah pick themselves. I think Gakpo's so class. I think he's so dangerous on the turn. He's got power. He can run. He drops in and picks the ball in midfield really well. He absolutely picks themselves. You're not going to drop Mo. He's an Iron Man. He refuses to not play. I don't know what Luis Diaz's fitness level is. Whether he's maybe prepared to start. But if Jota's back is hurt, I mean, he took a knee square to his back. If he's hurt enough to not start, I could see Diaz. Maybe for 55, 60 minutes. Get someone else on with fresh legs at 60.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jay, that seems like the most logical approach with Diaz. I think he played 10 minutes on his return and he played 20 minutes. I think at West Ham he come on at 55 as well. So, he played, including injury time, 40 minutes there. It seems like now it's going to be that 60-minute, 50-minute against Tottenham. And I think it'll probably be, you look at their defence, it's definitely what Diaz offers. He offers, a lot more direct rushing towards players, quick dribbling. I think it's definitely worth playing him. What are your thoughts on that? Would it be Nunes on the left or Diaz on the left?
I don't like Nunes on the left, lad. Not that I dislike Nunes. He's not a left winger. He hasn't got the feet for it. He hasn't got the technique for it. He's a centre forward. So I don't like seeing him put out on the left. I think a lot of the criticism he gets off some people, it's because he's playing left wing. It's not his role. If you put Salah left, well, no, he's left-footed, so probably wouldn't be too bad, to be fair. But if you play a player in a position he's not familiar with, if you put Kanate at right back, he's not going to look like Kanate because he's not a right back, he's a centre-half. I think right now, out of the front 3, Gakpo's number 1 for me in terms of who'd start. I think he's influencing the game more than anyone. Thought Salah was really poor against West Ham. If we had someone who could play right wing, I'd actually drop Salah. And I know that'll be controversial for a lot of people for his numbers. But for me, he offered nothing against West Ham, nothing at all. And when he made the Nunes sub, I thought it was Salah who'd come off, to be honest. But he didn't. So I hope what you've said, right? I hope it is time for Diaz now to get his first start, albeit just an hour, even if it's only the first half and then Nunes does come on. Great, but yeah, it'd be good to see him get some proper minutes. Now, I think when he's fully fit, there's no question that Diaz starts in that front 3, no question at all. And in Gakpo's form, I think he's also the other one who's in there, to be fair to him. So if Diaz is fit enough, you'd definitely start him. If not, then you'd have to go with Nunes really because you've got no other choice.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with you. I was saying to Neil at the game, you know, I was surprised he brought Gakpo off, considering what Salah was doing, and you know, that seems to have been Salah's game all season. Sadly, he's not really as influential, you know, attacking wise going forward, but he's still getting goals. So it's also hard to drop somebody who's your highest earner. You know, it's that's probably the issue that Klopp's tackling at the moment. You know, he can't have demanded a contract for Salah and then not play him. So sticky situation, but I completely agree with you on there. But before we end the stream, we'll do our usual, you know, prediction, score prediction. So Colin, I'll start with you. What score are you going for Sunday's game against Tottenham?
I'm thinking 3-1. I'm thinking 3-1. Like I said, I think we probably go up early and we put them to bed. Maybe they nick one late, make it a little interesting, but I think we've got too much to lose, honestly. We've got too much riding on it for it not to matter. I think we maybe 2-0 at half. And then 1-1 second half.
Yeah, Jay, 6 games left in the season. I think 4 home, 2 away. You know, it's probably the bus welcomes are going to start getting, you know, ready around now. So it's a big game. But what are your final thoughts and what's your score prediction?
I was going to say 3-1. That's why I smiled when Colin said it, but instead I won't copy, so I'll raise it. I'll go 4-1 because we're at Anfield. I think if we get an early goal against Tottenham, they'll capitulate. Get the crowd behind us, get that fast pace going the way we did against Arsenal in the second half. Strong press. If we do that, I think we'll put them to bed quite easily. But it's important we get an early goal, I think, as well, just so they don't build them confidence and don't get Kane on the ball.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go 5-2. Go confident. I'm gonna go Christian Romero red card after Cody Gakpo's absolutely bullied him and Eric Dyer all game. So it's and you know Kane's gonna get his usual penalty at Anfield. So that's what I'm going for. You know, who knows? So maybe another 7-0, maybe a lovely 0-0. But Colin, Jay, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody in the chat, Kapechi, Jen, Helio, SV, probably missed a few, Michael as well. So thank you so much for joining us. We will be live right after the game on Sunday, about 10-15 minutes as usual. But as I said, if you are new, please do leave a like, subscribe. I've been Charlie, and thank you so much for watching LFC.